I apologize for the loud AC, but it is 90 degrees outside. I can turn it off. Anyways, it is 5 p.m. and I have not filmed anything today, and that is because I just woke up. And I just woke up because I was awake until almost 8 o'clock in the morning listening to a podcast. And this was not one of those things where I got hyper fixated on it because I was entertained or lost track of time or anything like that, like I often do when I'm playing video games or something. This was because where do we fucking begin? So I guess we should begin from the beginning. I've tried to explain to you guys the type of area that I am from, that I was born and raised in. I wouldn't even call this shit a town because there's no town. It's just a lot of trees and some people. Well, back in 2008, there was a murder out there. There was a woman murdered, and they found her body in the cellar of a barn or a storage building, whatever you want to call it. And the case went cold because it was 2008. I mean, there were no such thing as ring cams. Cell phones were not heavily used. There was nothing. There was no evidence left, physical evidence left behind, and her body was so severely damaged that they were only able to identify her from her medical or her dental records. So it went cold for 15 years. And last year, this cold case team picked up the case. I don't know if the family brought them in. I don't know if the state brought them in. I don't know if they just pick a case and decide to try to solve it, because this was one thing they kept reiterating throughout the podcast was this is going to be a very tough case because of lack of evidence. I don't know what prompted them to pick this case up, but I do know that there is a saying that if you want to get away with a murder, you do it in the county that I'm from, because the police department and every law enforcement agency has outright admitted that they're incompetent. They don't have the skills, they don't have the knowledge, they don't have the technology to solve these types of things. So pretty much 10 times out of 10, they don't. Over the last couple of months, just by word of mouth, there have been several suspects that have come to light, names brought up. Apparently, people were talking for a long time. One of them that was involved told people. And one thing I will say that I'm thankful about is that there was a guy out there that for years, for a decade and a half, he was a social pariah because he was the last one to see this woman alive. He was the last one to see her alive. And he got to have his name cleared. He did everything with full cooperation because he wanted to finally be able to breathe after a decade and a half. So he did get that justice, and that's great. However, there were several names brought up because the people involved told people, and those people told people, and those people told people. I never heard any of this. This happened back in 2008, and I lived in Florida in 2008. And I actually moved out of that area when I was 17, so 2006-ish. My mom and I got in a fight. She didn't like my boyfriend, wanted me to break up with him, and kicked me out because I refused to. So I had not lived out there for a couple of years. And I was one of those people that was desperately clinging to MySpace. So if there was people talking about this stuff on Facebook, I didn't see it. I didn't know like the ins and outs of this case until recently. I know that every time I would go out there, I would see the posters everywhere that were like cold case posters, like offering a reward for information and all that. I've seen those, but I didn't really know any details of it until recently. And that is because every person that has been named as a person of interest in this case is related to me. And I mean closely related to me, not distantly related to me. One of them was very young when this happened, 24. In the podcast, they were talking about his character and, just like facts about him. And one thing they said was that he was a drug addict. That's true. He was a thief. That was true. He was a thief to support his habit. But that he was a passive person. He was not a violent person. However, you put drugs and alcohol in the mix. Anybody can do anything when they're not in the right mind. And I personally am never surprised when I hear that somebody is a bad person or somebody has done something bad, because I never put that type of shit beyond anybody. I never put that type of shit beyond anyone. But he was named as the murderer. And then the second family member was named as the person that helped him clean it up. But also they are looking at him as the potential suspect as well, because his property connects to the property that she was found on, which also happens to be her family's property. He had quite the reputation of being just like crazy. Like literally, he had a reputation of being crazy. He did know the woman and had a crush on her. He did own weapons. They don't know if anything happened to her body. They don't know, because it was so severely burned that any physical evidence on her body was gone. They don't know if she was assaulted. They don't know if she had any kind of wound on her anywhere, which is a very good possibility. He also has a history of womanizing. When I was a kid growing up, he had a girlfriend that was not much older than me. And she stepped forward and told the investigators like he was abusive, and he assaulted me like physically and sexually all throughout our relationship. I think he is capable of this. He's capable of it. He was smart enough to get away with it. If he were to do something like that. And they kept referring to her not as his victim but as his survivor, because that easily could have been her, So they think maybe if the one family member is the one that did it, it was surely by accident. Perhaps she happened upon him doing something that he shouldn't have been doing, something illegal, maybe stealing off of her family's property, and perhaps making, shake and bake, making meth or something, or perhaps he hit her with his vehicle. We don't know. So that's a great possibility, because he knows that property is connected to, a family's property. He knows the woods, he knows the trails, he knows how to get big things from one end to another. He's stolen large pieces of property and taken them through the woods. It would be nothing for him to take, a human. And then the other one, he had a crush on her, and he could had assaulted her, and she could have freaked out. Like there's all different types of scenarios that would have happened, could have happened. The thing that I am struggling with the most is that both of these people are dead. One of them died in 2015 of a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and the other one died in 2017 of a drug overdose. So ultimately, if they ever are able to figure out who did it, they're never going to know for 100% where and why and how. And I know her parents are at the end of their life. They're at the, they're very, very elderly. And they're, the investigators are kind of hoping that they'll get to make it for the next year so that they can get some 100% answers. These are all things that have not, the book is not closed on this case. These are all things that are alleged at this point, but all public information. All this is public information. The thing that hurts my heart the most is that while I am sure that they are going to have some kind of comfort and a little bit of closure because they will get to know the who, it's soul shattering to me that they're not going to get to know the why and the how. They're not going to get to know why this happened to their daughter. I was up late listening to the podcast that had interviews with my family members, and after I was done listening to them, I was rolling around in bed for a while, just absolutely swinging wildly between being heartbroken and being pissed. And not heartbroken for the family members, but heartbroken for the family. The family members that they did contact, they, obviously recorded their interactions with them, which they are within their legal rights to do. They were so fucking rude to these investigators. They were so fucking rude to these investigators. They went to talk to the one family member's dad, and he basically was like, get the fuck off my porch. I don't know that family. I haven't even breathed in the same room as that family since the 1960s. Get the fuck out of here. They went to talk to his mom as well, and his sister answered the door and basically refused to allow them to talk to her mom, and then proceeded to harass the investigators and argue with the investigators on Facebook, which is so like, are you fucking kidding me? It's like one of the people in the podcast was saying, it's all ran by the investigators. If you truly, with your whole heart, believe that they're innocent, why are you not trying to clear their names? Why won't you talk to them to clear their names? You know what I mean? And if I had any information, I would tell them, because I think that family deserves peace. I do. The book deserves to be closed on this case after 15 years, but I didn't live out there when it happened, and I never heard shit about it. I could not believe listening to the interaction between these various family members and these investigators. My fucking jaw was on the floor. How defensive and scripted and hateful. And it was like they kept saying, don't you want to clear their names? Don't you want to say that's not something they would have done? Don't you want to alibi them? Don't you want to talk to us and maybe make us think that it couldn't be them? You're not doing that. All you're doing is absolutely driving the point home that it was. The investigators have a lot of theories bouncing around, and every single one of them involved my family members, and I am so fucking angry right now and confused. I want her parents to be able to live out the rest of their life in peace. I want her siblings to have a sense of peace. Her siblings are also getting older as well, as much as they can, because everybody involved isn't here anymore. If they are, in fact, who did it, This is all alleged at this point. I at least give them that much, you know. I don't know. But I was awake until the early morning after I got done, you know, listening to the podcast, hearing these interviews, hearing the perspective of the investigators. I was like, this is a fucking mess. I could not believe just the hateful fucking tone. And it was like the investigators were saying, it all sounded scripted. It all sound like every single fucking one of them is just digging deep. And the card that everybody continues to pull is that they're dead. The dead. The dead. Okay, but her parents aren't. And her siblings aren't. And they deserve closure. And it's unfortunate to me that while we may be able to find out who did it because of word of mouth, we will never 100% know who and what and where, or I mean what, where, and why, because I'm sure with time the stories have changed. You know, things were left out, things were added in. You know, it's kind of like playing the telephone game where you whisper in somebody's ear and they whisper and you know, shit changes, details change. There will never be a 100% answer when it comes to that, and that's fucking heartbreaking. I don't know, like, it blows my fucking mind. I don't know, but that's why I haven't filmed today. I couldn't bring myself for a while there to listen to the interviews and all of that. I kind of had to like mentally build myself up to it. This has been something that I've known about all week, and just what can you do? You know, everyone involved. Will there ever be a true sense of justice with this? I don't think so. I think that, and that's the thing, is there never will be a true sense of justice for this family, and they will never have 100% closure, because everything that they're finding is from word of mouth. It's all because of people talking to each other and passing on stories and stuff like that. And none of that stuff is ever 100% accurate. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm disgusted and infuriated and not so heartbroken for the family. And yeah, I would never, ever, ever. And that's the thing, like I was listening to the investigator say, you know, that one of them, he would never do that. Like, people kept saying, oh, he would never do that because he's super passive. He's backed down from fights. He would back down from confrontation. I never put it past anyone to be a bad person. Anytime that I ever hear anybody around me has done something shitty or that they're secretly a bad person, I'm never shocked. Just because throughout my life I have encountered so many people in my life that were absolutely fucking terrible people, but to the people around them that never saw that side of them, they were just awesome people. You know what I mean? Like, I dated somebody for years that was like, people refuse to view him for who he is because they don't know him that way. But I know him that way. You know, I've encountered a lot of people like that in my life. People that are awful people behind closed doors that have done awful things, but outwardly and socially, they are people like him. And because of that, I never, ever, 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 ever put it past people to be bad people behind closed doors, to do bad things behind closed doors. And also, I acknowledge that shit happens. Like, not to say it that way, but like, things happen, and, you know, in the moment and everything like that. And, yeah, anybody is capable of doing anything. Absolutely anyone is capable of doing anything. And I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised. But I have to go because I need to eat and get some caffeine in me. And it is 5:24 in the afternoon. I got to start my day, kind of. I don't know. I will see you guys later. Bye.